But on top of that, one of the things that has happened as well is that because he was confined to the Ecuadorian embassy for 7 years and never once went outside, which obviously is something that doesn't happen in most prisons. You at least get 30 minutes or 60 minutes to get sunlight, which the human organism needs. His physical health and his mental health have suffered greatly and eroded greatly.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Including having pulmonary problems because of the lack of exercise. And Belmarsh has become this COVID-19 petri dish. Several prisoners have died from COVID-19. Multiple ones, I don't know the count now, are infected with the coronavirus. And Julian has serious comorbidities. If he contracts that virus, there's a good chance that he won't survive it because of everything that he's endured over the last decade. And yet, incredibly violent felons have been released on humanitarian grounds, on health grounds, from Belmarsh, from other prisons in the United States. Paul Manafort is out. Michael Cohen is out. They're all out on grounds of the coronavirus, but they won't let Julian out, even though he's no longer even a convict. He's not, he served his 1 year for bail jumping. That was the only charge pending against him when they dragged him out of the embassy. And then there's the sealed indictment against him in the United States for publishing documents that even his hated, devoted haters in the U.S. media say is an improper and unconstitutional indictment. So there's really no reason to even keep him in prison, let alone under those conditions that are jeopardizing his life. But as you pointed out earlier, what this is really about is destroying somebody who's been an effective dissident against the U.S. war machine.
Yeah, and of course they have this whole myth, this completely made-up nonsense that, WikiLeaks endangered lives. I mean, not one single person. This is. Do you see how they try to derail the conversation? Like, the WikiLeaks publications endangered lives. What about the lives in those publications? What about the people who were killed in those fucking war crimes? They don't count? That's the whole issue. Like, they try to change the entire subject and take you off into some other direction.
Some of those documents revealed, for example, that there were 15,000 civilian deaths in Iraq that just hadn't been discovered or known or counted, that were just part of secret documents. A lot of people don't realize this, but in a lot of ways, those publications helped end the U.S. war in Iraq, because the Obama administration in 2010 was negotiating with the puppet regime in Baghdad to get immunity for U.S. troops, so that any war crimes or other crimes that U.S. troops committed on Iraqi soil would be immunized and shielded from any legal accountability in Iraq. That was a condition that Obama was imposing in order to keep U.S. troops in Iraq. And the Iraqi government was willing to do that. They were working their way through the parliament. And at the time that the WikiLeaks documents were published, one of the things it revealed, there was this incredibly savage murder of an entire Iraqi family, which they claimed was the result of a wayward bomb that had dropped, an airstrike. But as it turned out, and these documents revealed, it actually was U.S. troops who entered the home and massacred the entire family. And they then did an airdrop, a deliberate bombing raid of that house to destroy the evidence. So they claimed at the time that it was an unintentional bomb gone astray, when in reality it was a mass murder by U.S. troops. And the revelation of that in Iraq was so inflammatory that it politically impeded the Iraqi government from giving the immunity to U.S. troops that Obama was demanding as a condition to staying. And that's the only reason that U.S. troops, more or less, left Iraq. So, and, there's, as you say, there's so much murder and so much destruction of human life around the world revealed by those documents. And what they did was, they did the same thing to us in Snowden. You're endangering lives. You've caused informants to be killed. You've put people in harm's way. They can never specify a single concrete example.
Exactly.
And one of the things they did when the WikiLeaks documents were revealed was the Joint Chief of Staff said, WikiLeaks and Julian Assange have blood on their hands. And then media outlets finally investigated, including McClatchy, and they concluded, a year later, once that was all circulated and put into people's brains, that no, that was fabricated. There's not a single instance of one person whose life has been ended as a result of those revelations. The only example they had was they claimed there was one informant in Afghanistan who was mentioned in the documents who had to be relocated. That was the only example after a year that they could come up with. But that's what they do. They demonize whoever it is that confronts them. It's just one of the weapons that they use.